Unintended consequences and so forth. Do you think that what do you think, I guess, the risks are associated with the Bush policy of preemptive self-defense, and do you think that that has unintended consequences for the United States moving forward?
Well, first of all, I think that it was a huge mistake to kind of make a doctrine out of it. According to the UN, countries are able to defend themselves. It was an unnecessary set of statements. The problem that is out there as an unintended consequence is it's based on totally accurate intelligence. That's the Achilles heel of a lot of the concepts, and it makes it very difficult to make sure that you really know what is happening. Also, the biggest, I think, unintended consequences is supposing other countries decided that they wanted to do that just on the basis of what they thought was a threat to them. And I think it just opens up a huge Pandora's box.
Do you think the Georgia-Russia conflict is a direct result of that, or is that unrelated in that?
I haven't heard that as a justification, but I think one could, I think about among the various things that the Russians did was to distribute passports to people in South Ossetia so that they indicated that they were defending the rights of people that they thought were their citizens. So it's a little bit different and more complicated.
And you mentioned coming back to Missouri at some point. Were you talking specifically Columbia or just the state in general?
Well, I'm going to spend a lot of time campaigning, and so we'll see where I can be most useful. Yeah, thanks.
How important is Missouri to the upcoming election?
I think very important. Missouri is important in most elections, but I think that a lot of the issues here are the kind of bread and butter issues that concern many Americans. It's middle America. It has a lot of the economic questions and issues, and I know that the Obama campaign considers it a very important state, that they are going to be and have been very active here, and that there will be a very active campaign here.
Is that what brought you out today, to try to start campaigning for him?
Well, I think there've been a lot of campaigning going on already, but I welcomed the invitation to come to Missouri, and I think that many of us, and obviously the Obama campaign on the ground, but a lot of people, I think, want to indicate why we are supporting Senator Obama and why we think it's important for America and for the people of Missouri specifically, because you're so linked to the international economy, the economic situation here. A lot of the issues are the kind that are very central to this campaign.
Madam Secretary, you mentioned in your address that you thought that the Iraq conflict was the greatest foreign policy disaster in the history of this country, worse than Vietnam. How do you justify that statement?
Because I think that what it has done is to really, first of all, weaken. Our military's been brilliant, but it has taken an incredible effort to do this. I think also it has, we have huge budget problems as a result of it. We are transferring huge amounts of money. But from my perspective, I think it has made the situation more complicated in the Middle East. President Bush thought that this was going to be a model democracy. It has not served in that particular purpose. It has, in fact, given rise to more Iranian ambitions, and it has undercut America's reputation in a way when we are now identified with, in many people's minds, with Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo. So I think it's been very, very damaging.
One of the rationales, and correct me if I'm wrong, to going and intervening into Bosnia and Kosovo was ethnic cleansing and substantial human rights violations. Wouldn't that prerequisite for intervening also be a prerequisite toward invade Iraq, which also had significant human rights abuses?
I think it was that was not the prerequisite that was used, frankly. What President Bush said, he had any number of reasons, that wasn't one of them. He felt that it was a threat to the United States and weapons of mass destruction, which ended up not being there. I think that the situation in the Balkans was quite different. It was also done with many, many UN resolutions and ultimately with NATO action. So it's quite a different situation.
My final question for you, if there's one aspect of your Secretary of State tenure that you would like to see during a hypothetical Obama administration, what would it be?
Well, I think the thing that I tried very hard was to, in fact, operate with friends and allies, to have open communications, to really see diplomacy as the major tool of American foreign policy, to understand how force and diplomacy work together, but to use diplomacy, to see the value of the United Nations, to see the value of alliances, and to understand the goodness of American power, that we could help in various countries.
Is there any chance that we'll see you back to work in 2 months if Obama wins the...
Well, my main goal is to help elect Senator Obama. And I had the best possible job for somebody who's interested in foreign policy as Secretary of State, and you usually don't have it twice. But I am happy to help in whatever way I can. But I am completely focused on getting him elected and not on getting a job, frankly.
I gotta ask a question about the anti-missile shield in Eastern Europe. Would Obama put the system in work as the Bush administration did?
Well, he has said that he wanted to know whether it worked or not, whether there should be more research on it. But I think that the problem has become much more complicated as a result of actions by Russia, and Senator Obama has supported the evolution of the issue and having the Patriots in Poland. But basically there was a real question, and has been among all Democrats, as to whether in fact the systems work and that more research needed to be done. But the decision has been made, and I think we have all spoken about the fact that the threats that Russia has made against those, both the Czech Republic and Poland, and then Ukraine for other reasons, are unacceptable.
You mentioned that when you started, foreign diplomacy was very male-dominated. How did that make you feel? Do you think that that's still not the case?
Well, I think it still is, though we've had our second female Secretary of State, and we now are, I think, might see the Foreign Minister of Israel become the Prime Minister of Israel. So, and in many countries there are more women in high-level political posts, but to a great extent it still remains very much a male-dominated system. And I have believed generally that countries, in order to prosper, need to make use of all their resources, and women do most of the work in countries and need to be politically and economically empowered. That's what makes for stable society.